I'm Jatin Chaudhary. I'm the co-founder of HI Network. We host engaging startup networking meetups in 25 global startup cities. We have this very exciting spouse entrepreneur series going on. This is our seventh episode, and we are joined by Goda and Anirudh from Chennai. They run a boutique law firm, AK Law Chambers. So it will be very interesting to know from their experiences. We have a lot of tech startups who joined in, and good to see lawyers joining us for this discussion. So first of all, Goda and Anirudh, thank you so much for joining in. So if you can tell us, what is AK Law Chambers? What are the things you do?
We are a boutique law firm that we started off in 2013. So we started off as a dispute resolution and litigation and arbitration law firm. We've subsequently expanded into doing transactional work, which Goda handles, and real estate work, which was handled by another partner. We also opened another office in Bangalore.
Okay. And what's the founding story? And how did you decided to work together?
The only thing I think at the time was that I had started working in 2008 in Clifford Chance, London. And there you get to work in 4 different practice areas, then choose what you want to do. I had decided in my mind that I wanted to do disputes, that is litigation and arbitration. We are from a family of lawyers. My father is a senior counsel. My mother is a lawyer. So when Goda started, we said, okay, why not she explore an area where we don't have family expertise? And the one area was mergers and acquisitions, etc. So she joined an office that specialized in this kind of work, and she really enjoyed doing it. So then we thought, okay, so I started practice a few years earlier. So I started AK Law Chambers as a disputes law firm. And when she felt she had enough experience to then start off her own practice, it only made logical sense for us to build the practice together, because there's obviously a lot of synergy.
Like, in some sense, a full service law firm, because when you have a transaction, you could have disputes, and the same disputes could have other contracts or other transactions that they want support with. And once you get settled with one particular counsel, you'd prefer having one person to do mostly everything for you, as opposed to shopping around with multiple lawyers for different requirements.
Correct. So just to get the timeline, in 2013, AK Law Chambers got started, and Goda, you joined in 2015.
Yes.
So at that point in time, 2 things. A, were you married? And what was your thought process to take up this assignment?
Yeah, we were married. I think we got married in 2012 actually. And subsequently in 2013, Anirudh set up, his own practice. Then in 2015, we realized that, okay, let's kind of complement each other's practice. We have been apprehensive all through, wondering how it's going to be working together and living together, being married. So, but yeah, I guess the entire completely different areas of practice keeps the balance pretty good.
Yep. And typically in a typical startup phase, you start a company because there is a problem you want to solve, and you just go about finding customers and then start charging them for the service that you will provide. What were your early days look like? Like, in your case, what happens? You get all those people who are already having in disputes, so they come to you saying that please resolve us. So what were your early days?
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure, because in addition to the genuine deadlines that you have, because there are a number of genuine deadlines that you have in a disputes practice. Say a bank guarantee is invoked. You have to get an injunction next morning. Now there's no point fighting the litigation. If there is termination of a contract, you have to move the next day. There are high pressure situations where you have to be ready to deliver overnight. This is part of our job. But in addition to this, when you're young, clients set artificial deadlines. To meet everything becomes a little difficult. So for the first couple of years, I think the amount of pressure was immense. Thereafter, once you've established yourself in the market, you can put your foot down and say, I think this is something that requires a lot more analysis, and there's no point trying to set an artificial deadline for this. And I think thereafter, once clients know that you can deliver under pressure, they are all right for you to take a call as to when is the ideal time to move. So that was a major issue. We also had the issue of hiring, because I'm more a lawyer and I've picked up some entrepreneurial skills on the way. But when you start off as a full-time lawyer and you're lucky enough for your work to suddenly increase, you suddenly realize that you're short-staffed. You've not hired enough. And typically June, July is the hiring season. You're looking to hire freshers. And if you miss the bus at that time, you do not find good fresher talent till the next year, June or July. So we initially faced some challenges in relation to how many people to hire, how many lawyers to hire. I think it took us maybe about 2 to 3 years to find the right balance. Entrepreneurial challenges that
it's a constant. I think it's a constant learning cycle in the sense that starting from right now, the market is so cutthroat, to be honest, right? Even amongst lawyers, we're not like a business. We're a service. We're like a professional service that you cater to clients. And the bar is very particular that you cannot advertise. So there's all limitations that you have to work in. So how do you attract clients? Okay, everything is honestly only by word of mouth. So getting the clients, retaining them, and at an early stage for them to build that kind of confidence in you, because you're young. You may be saying the right thing, but still they say, okay, but you're young. And more so in my case, because you're a woman, which I don't know why that makes a difference, but somehow it needs to be validated by a man for some reason, right? Because you're saying these things. All of these are issues that we do face at the early days. Not only, you also need to figure out what is the valid sort of a fee that you can charge. And we've also learned, okay, at what point do we say, no, we want an advance before we take on the work? At what point is it okay to say, so you need to work out commercials in some sense, which is also a very important part of setting up a law firm and keeping it going, in addition to having the right team and obviously the work that comes into.
And I was curious, do you have any non-lawyers in your team? Or you have to be lawyer to be part of the AK Law Channels? And another thing, it's 5 years. So you must have, so you are growing. So according to both of you, you can share different moments. What were those critical moments or choices you made that put you in a very different trajectory?
I think, so I'm concerned, there were a few initial breaks that really helped. So I think one major break that came my way was in this form of a litigation that was referred by a leading international law firm, Jones Day. Before I came back to India, we were both in London. I was working at Clifford Chance in London. And my boss from Clifford Chance had moved to Jones Day. And one day he picked up the phone and said, there is this piece of litigation, high value litigation. Are you in a position to handle it? And he told me it's in Singrauli, Madhya Pradesh. In fact, he told me Singrauli. I had no clue where Singrauli was. I was just excited that I was getting the brief. I said, all. And then I had to Google map where Singrauli was. And I realized that it would take me 17 hours to get there. 2 flights from Chennai to Delhi, Delhi to Varanasi, and 7 hours by car. And the other side was traveling on a Reliance chopper and landing next to the court, where it would take us 17 hours to just get there. And that litigation was a massive litigation internationally, because it raised points of law in India that had not been settled before. And we were able to succeed at all levels. And that threw us on the international map. Thereafter, things have been constantly flowing. We've been, I think, fortunate enough to have well-wishers who have supported us. And I can say that we've taken a few right steps in the correct direction. Of course, a long journey ahead, but I think we are.
According to you, what was those key choices you made or a critical moment?
So for me, I think the fondest memory would be pretty much one of the biggest deals which I worked on. One of the first biggest deals, because there are 7. You work on the entire. I specialize in the entire startup field with private equity and M&A and all of that. So one of the biggest deals which we did was a fundraise for Quick, which was the first 100 crore deal, 100 crore plus deal which I worked on. And since then, I think just the trust that the promoter put in me, because we did a smaller series A round, and then he called back and he said, I want you to do the series B. It's a much bigger. We've done several transactions before, but just the fact that the size of the deal is substantial to some extent. So I think that just the fact that the promoter put the trust in me to say, okay, here, take this deal, do it, right? Even though that I think changed a lot, and since then it's only getting bigger and better.
Yep. And coming to the very heart of this discussion, working with a spouse and building a business together. So, what are your thoughts on the advantage?
I think we are not in the same practice area, so it's like independent practices merging into one. So we have a litigation practice, a real transactional practice, and a real estate practice all merged into one, but we are not treading on each other's toes. On the management point of view, I think there are certainly aspects where I realize I have shortcomings, and there are like starting from digitalizing our invoicing. So that was Goda's idea altogether. I was initially not very comfortable with it. He said, okay, we will try it out for 2 months and see whether it works. If not, we would go back. And luckily, Zoho had come up with a package that was extremely cheap. So we said, all right, let's try it out. And I think it's been a really good decision, because now that's something that's really helped. So I think there are aspects where I think we learn from each other. But insofar as the core practice areas are concerned, they're distinct.
Okay, so you mentioned all the advantages. So sometimes we take certain things for granted. So what are those things? What do you recommend other couple founders?
Office admin or being in charge of the office and not the practice. I mean, being the practice is separate, but being in charge of running the office, hiring, many things, branding, the firm, marketing, as in, whatever basic that's permitted within our job, right? All of that is a sort of a thankless, unpaid job in the office. And you're often seen as like the villain in the office. The office, all our juniors complain that, oh my God, she's asking us to keep the office clean. Oh my God, she's asking us to put the papers back in place. Several things like this that constantly keep coming up. Maintaining IT infrastructure, because we're a boutique firm, we're a pretty young firm in the scheme of things. We're not 800, 900 lawyers which have professional consultants who do these kinds of things. So we do everything in-house in that sense. So between us, yes, there are limitations of expertise because we're both primarily lawyers, and all of these entire administrative, entrepreneurial, managerial skills are all learning it on the way, sort of a thing. There are bound to be issues where we both disagree on, starting from, say, hires. Fundamentally, it's okay, but starting on how much you're willing to commit to pay to a particular person. There are, sometimes we disagree on what should be this thing, or a sort of a general organizational structure, what nomenclature should be given, who gets a promotion, who gets a sort of a different designation, whatever it may be. And like you said, all the technology aspects of things, what works. Okay, initially there's always an impediment to take on a new system in the office. How to convince people in the office to actually use a particular system. We probably paid and gotten a subscription, but to get the office to use it, you're initially the pain in the throat saying, oh, okay, listen, why is this person pushing me to use something which I'm not comfortable? But I guess as an organization, we need to do that. And even between the two of us, there are things that we don't agree on, right? But end of the day, you want the entire firm to grow. You want our practice to grow. We need to optimize this to the best possible way.
Yeah. And you are lawyers. You're both good at difficult conversation. How do you handle difficult conversation between both of you?
I think sometimes it's about recognizing strengths and weaknesses of each of us and recognizing the important role that each of us plays in the practice. So, for instance, if it is something to do with general admin and, say, for instance, getting some systems in place, I know that perhaps she's better than me at that. But when it comes to hires or when it comes to aspects of management within the litigation, because there are huge challenges that we have. The challenges being, let me give you one or two
Yep.
examples. So we do a lot of litigation. We also do international arbitration, whether it may be in Singapore or London or within India and Delhi or Bombay. Therefore, for international arbitration, you're looking at competition with at a pan-India level. For domestic, you're primarily looking at the Chennai market. So when it comes to paying salaries, you're perhaps going to be amongst the higher pay masters when it comes to the Chennai market in litigation. But when you're looking at a pan-India level, there is no way we can match what the large law firms pay. So how do you find the balance? How do you find the balance? And again, we are not typically a law firm in the disputes space because a lot of the law firms would primarily hire senior counsels to do their advocacy. Whereas here, in most cases, we do it ourselves. So therefore, there are differences in structures. It's not that what works there will work here. And there are these challenges because you can't have one pay structure for one team and something lower for the other team, because that's again something that will not work, will lead to perhaps factions within the office, which we don't want to be encouraging. So there are a lot of these challenges and it requires management issues. So if it is something to do with these relating to my work, I would take the decision. Right? I would hear her out, but I would take the decision. There are aspects like, for instance, following this digitization, where I think she is better equipped than I am. Abuse, but
end of the day, what is at the office stays in the office, and then once you get back home, we more or less try not to really take it back home with us.
What is that one skill Anirudh has? You believe if you had that, you would have done much better.
I think the sort of undiverted focus and the drive or the passion to do work, basically. He's an extreme workaholic, and you can tell when you meet him in front. But I think that's a great strength. It's really difficult to have him distracted, and I think that's, in that sense, we are in contrast. Right? I think I can multitask, but I'm still all over the place. And he is, I know, when I sit on something, I will finish it, and then I will move on to the next thing. So I think that's a great strength.
Anirudh, what is that skill Godha has, and if you believe that if you had that, you would have done much better?
Packaging and business development, because that's something where I'm completely lacking. Something she is really good at. She's good at building on her contacts and trying to get more work out of that. That's something that she's really good at, which I think it's a skill that I'm lacking.
And another thing, sometimes like it could be a very small thing. What is that one thing you strongly believe on, but not necessarily the other partner believes on the same thing? So Anirudh, what is that one thing you strongly believe? It could be any small thing within the business, but Godha does not necessarily believe on it.
I think that while you do good work, while you are able to deliver good quality work, in today's world, whether it's right or wrong, or whether people agree with us or not, I'm sure this is a sort of mixed opinion. I think you need to put yourself out there, whatever it may be, whether you're, a lawyer, chartered accountant, doctor, a businessman, whatever it may be. If you don't talk about the work you do, in other words, it's called marketing, but there are different ways of doing this. We can't put up a big advertising board outside on the street saying, "Oh, we are lawyers." But there are different ways of doing this, and I think it's really important. Good work is great. Word of mouth and building a clientele on that is also extremely important. I would say about 80% of our work is through word of mouth and all that. But whatever is limited in our area of work, starting from speaking at events or not meeting clients socially, but that's something that we definitely do not do. But meeting, basically going to events where you get noticed, like you're in a speaking position or that, then ensuring that you meet deadlines for awards, right? Those are also important things that clients think that clients take you seriously. So I think it's very important to do good work and also tell people that you do good work. In whatever is the permitted way that you're allowed to tell, you should tell people that you do good work.
Yeah. Okay. And I can say on that, first sent me a list of awards with deadlines. Only barring that, we got one or two. So this year she's trying her best to ensure that this. So I keep getting it through WhatsApp every now and then.
Awesome. So Anirudh, you want to share this? What is that you strongly believe on something and not necessarily Goda believes on it strongly?
I don't know. I don't think there's anything from my end, and to
Yeah.
some extent hiring, because I believe that you must have the right kind of mix in the team. If I see a spark in somebody, I would straight away pick them up. I would pick up a few others who I believe who have the dedication and who are ready to put in 15 hours a day. I would also pick some people who I think have a long-term prospect. So far as Goda is concerned, I think the last factor is the
I
most
think
important.
for me, loyalty is.
So for me, I would be like, well, if I see it's worth taking a shot, because you may just get that one idea that may change a case, and you may get that one bit of research that can change a case. Yeah, that's something where we have a
I think that
disagreement.
stems also from the type of work that we do, because I put in a lot of effort into training my team so that it is in some sense automatic, so that I don't have to be there on every single deal that I'm working on unless it requires it. Many times it's not required that I need to be there. So when you put in that effort of 2 years of training somebody and then they leave, you're literally back to square one. You spend all the time and effort training them. A spark is okay, but I think commitment is also equally important. I think that's one thing that we also hit on in that sense.
And which are your favorite books or a podcast that you like and you may recommend to other founders also?
I've been listening to this 100x podcast, the 100x Entrepreneur podcast. I think that's nice because they've put in a lot of founders and investors who talk about their journey. So I find that quite interesting.
Any book or a podcast that you listen and
Podcast, I don't know the name. I keep getting links to a podcast from Harvard Business School, which has a lot of great ideas. Which I get links, but that's something that I listen to. And then there's a book where, in fact, if you look at there's a talk by Mr. Arvind Datta, and he refers to a lot of these Japanese concepts on time management, which I too find very interesting. So
okay, and now we are coming to the part where ideally we needed a different screen where we typically ask all our panelists to ask questions to each other. Goda, what is that one question you always wanted to ask Anirudh but never got a chance? That's why two different screens went.
What would you do without me?
Anirudh, your answer.
As a litigation lawyer, you stick to what is actually.
And Anirudh, what would be your question to
the professional front? Yeah, okay. If I was not a disputes lawyer, would you be a disputes lawyer, or would you still stick to being a transaction lawyer, or a combination of both?
I'd probably be a combination, to be honest. I would have actually been, I think I would be, because I think that also stems, one, because I'm from a family of litigating lawyers, all right? And I think whether you're like it or not, there are skills which you acquire just by being around them at home, generally. How things work. Your dad's going to court daily. My sister's also a lawyer. We pick up these skills even just from home. Not necessarily the law, but the lifestyle as such. And my boss, Mr. T.K. Bhaskar, who I worked with in my initial years, he used to do both. And I'm a big fan of him. I completely admire the way he's managed the two. I think in Chennai, he has quite a very commendable transaction practice as well as a disputes practice. And he's the one man sitting on top of both. And he manages litigation during the day and sits very late into the night working on transactions. So I think that's something that I would like to do.
Okay. And if everything happens the way you imagine it should be, what would AK look?
So I think it's better we don't sort of look too far ahead because, as I said, we've taken a few steps in the right direction, but there's a long journey ahead. So I think we need to stick to what we've been doing and don't let the initial success get to us. So we continue the journey in the same direction.
Okay.
So long as you're willing to put in the hard work And so long as you stick to your ethical code, which is very often self-regulated in the context of lawyers, I think you would be going in the right direction.
Yep. And so this is the question we ask every time. If you were not part of AK Law Chambers, what else you would have been doing?
As in, if we were not lawyers, right? What else would we do?
What would that be like? Which firm, where, anything you? What would be alternate life of yours?
Well, if I had the athletic ability, I would probably be in Dubai playing the iPhone.
And Goda, you?
I would be an artist. Yeah, I still do a lot of art as a hobby, but if I wasn't a lawyer, maybe I would be more inclined in fine arts.
Awesome. And the last part of the discussion. So there will be a lot of spouse entrepreneurs who will be watching this video. So what would be your one-line message advice to them in a convocation speech style, slightly grander style? The one big line message from you to them.
I don't know whether this is something that would hold good across sectors, but I think the key is to focus on doing good work. Do not focus on the financial returns initially. When you adopt this approach of focusing on doing good work, I think the money will automatically follow. I think very often you set yourself early financial targets that puts artificial pressure on you, and you also need to be patient to achieve the success.
Yep.
I've seen a number of people with talent, but without the patience and perseverance that's required to succeed, because they believe that things must happen in 6 months, 8 months. That I think can be detrimental, especially in our profession.
I would second his thoughts as well, because not just as lawyers, and because I work with a lot of startups myself, I've noticed this with them, because they say, oh, we need to raise funds in the first 6 months, or even at the ideation stage, I see people coming and saying, you think that this idea could be funded. I don't think that I've also told my clients is that funding is not a sort of a validation of your business idea. It's a process. It's a process. It's not really a validation that you have arrived or any of these things. So setting realistic targets and being focused and staying there and being at it till the time you actually get to where you want to be is one thing. And learning from your failures. I think everybody has failures, which is part and parcel of life. But you learn from that and you pick yourself up and you go on. Not just either if you had a victory, then you can't just eternally rejoice on your victory. You can't eternally mourn on your losses. So you learn and you move on.
In the context of spouse entrepreneurs, what would be your advice? So they build those businesses successfully.
I think you just need to identify each other's strengths and weaknesses and respect that. Give each other the sort of a space that you need so that both can grow, whichever space that you're in.
Thank you so much, both of you.